This weekend, the third film in the Mike Banning trilogy, Angel Has Fallen, exploded into theaters. So today we're going to stop and rank all three films from the worst to the best. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies way too much. If you can relate, you're probably in the right place. Consider clicking that subscribe button. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your ranking of all three Has Fallen films. Let's have some fun talking about one of the few throwback hard R action franchises that we still have today. Real quick before we get started, last week I actually had the pleasure of interviewing Ric Roman Waugh, the director of Angel Has Fallen. We talked about his history as a stunt performer, action movies, the over-reliance on CGI, and of course, Angel Has Fallen. After this video, you can check out the interview right up here. And let's get started. Coming in last place is London Has Fallen. This film tries to repeat the formula of the first film, except instead of the White House being under siege, it's the entire city of London. And unfortunately, to make that happen, it starts to get a little bit preposterous. Also, at times, it feels like a rehash of the first film, except straining far more credibility than the original one did. And the original one was already kind of straining some credibility and going to some pretty extreme places. With that said, a lot of people online seem to be very critical of this film. They really enjoyed the first film, and this one let them down a whole lot. I'm not really in that camp. It is in third place, but I think it's still a perfectly fine throwback action movie. The action itself, I don't think skips a beat. Like, there's a single take shootout sequence in this film that's very cool. There's some well-crafted and directed action sequences. When it comes to the main draw of this film, the action, I think it's just on point with the first film. Also, because the president is with Mike Banning throughout the entire film, there's a nice little bromance going on. They have good chemistry with one another, and it's fun to have Aaron Eckhart more present inside of the actual action itself. That was a very nice addition inside of this film. And just because they were kind of doing the formula of the original film, it keeps up that urgency, the momentum of the original film. While it may be in third place, for me, this is a perfectly fine action movie. If I'm in the mood for some Gerard Butler action, I'd be totally fine to watch this movie again. Our runner-up is Angel Has Fallen. This film abandons the formula of the first two films and tells a very different type of story. It also goes a lot more character-centric. Very early on in the film, you realize we are kind of digging deeper into Mike Banning, the man, a lot more. We see his wife, his relationship with his family there. We dig in deep into his relationship with his father, the background. And also, we're looking at him as a guy that his history is taking a toll on him, and he's trying to decide what he wants to do in the future. We're looking at his career ambitions and things like that. All that's an interesting direction to take this franchise and to take this character. Also, whereas the first two films kind of focused in on a single day where a place is sieged, this is a bigger story that covers more time. So there's kind of more diversity inside of the action. There's a whole lot of explosions, you've got chases, you've got shootouts, a bunch of different types of things happen inside of the film. And of course, Nick Nolte is a fantastic addition to this film. You can believe him as the crazy outdoor woodsman who is very much broken by the war that he served in, that would be a terrible father, but not because he doesn't want to care, because he didn't know how to care for his son. There's some really nice touches inside of that. As well, Nick Nolte adds some much needed levity into this film that felt earned. It didn't feel forced. It didn't feel like little quips. It felt like the extension of the relationship between these two characters, and I know my audience was just laughing quite a bit throughout this film. But the plot here is so familiar and predictable. If you take The Fugitive, plus a dash of Shooter, plus a little bit of the government conspiracy theories of 24, put Gerard Butler in as the lead, and you have Angel Has Fallen. Granted, that sounds pretty amazing to me, but it's very familiar. Also, unbelievably painfully predictable. As soon as characters are introduced, you know exactly which ones are the bad guys, you know how it's gonna play out, and the movie tries to play these moments as big reveals, and you're like, well, yeah, I knew that. I knew that as soon as you introduced the character that he was gonna be the bad guy. Still, as a fan of the action genre, this movie gave me all the action, the thrills, and the explosions that I wanted, plus a little bit more character than I was expecting. But in first place is Olympus Has Fallen. Antoine Fuqua is one of the few consistent R-rated action directors of the 21st century, and Gerard Butler is one of the few consistent action heroes of the 21st century. Combine their skills together with the lone hero battling terrorist story template, inside of the White House, and you get a great throwback action film. What I really enjoy about this film is that it's an R-rated action film, unashamed to be an R-rated action film in an era of PG-13 CGI spectacle films. Instead of trying to go for a broad audience and get all the teenagers to show up, it's trying to appeal to people that enjoy throwback 80s, 90s, violent action movies. And those are my kinds of movies. So when it comes to the action, it's visceral, it's brutal. Our hero Mike stabs people in the head with knives. He tortures people. The bad guys kill innocent people to force the hand of the heroes. It makes violence seem actually violent. The other thing elevating the film is the great cast. Of course, Gerard Butler's a very good action star, but then you have Aaron Eckhart as the president, Morgan Freeman as the vice president, Robert Forster, Ashley Judd, Dylan McDermott. Everyone here is a solid actor that kind of brings that next level to the material. So the relationships work a little bit better. You care more about the characters because these actors bring that to the screen. Now, it's not the most original action film of all time, but it is a solid addition to the genre, so it comes in at number 1. Real quick, here's a clip from my interview with Ric Roman Waugh, the director of Olympus Has Fallen, where he talks about his preference for using practical effects over CGI. With this movie, there's a lot of explosions inside of it. How much of that was real and how much of that was CGI?
A lot, almost all of it was real.
Okay.
I mean, I don't.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, man, those are amazing explosions.
Yeah, I don't come from the world. I think today we've gotten into this place where I think some of my peers are getting a little bit lazy. I think that they're relying too much on the visual effects and the CGI versus using them as a great tool to augment what you do. So for me, I'll utilize visual effects to help what I've done in camera, but I'm looking to do everything as much as humanly possible in camera. Then there's certain things of safety or scheduling and so forth, or aesthetics that you're trying to bring to the table that the effects are great.
Right.
You know? But I think when you rely on them to do your job for you, I think that's when you're finding stuff to be not believable anymore, and you don't have an attachment to it. I think it's like you were saying, which I appreciate about the movies that I was in that you watched, you know,
right.
As a stuntman is, I feel like maybe I'm old school, maybe I'm nostalgic, but I'm trying to bring back that emotional rush to things to where when you watch the action in the 70s, you know, they talk about the car chase and Bullet. Well, that's because you felt like you were in that car chase and Bullet. You weren't watching it, you were in that car. And I want to give that sense of rush back to the audience again.